So let's take a look at the first chapter. Now, I use a different browser for this just because I like to have Google Colab logged into a different Google account. To use this textbook, it really helps if you have a Google account, as you're going to see. So I went to samsclass.info and COMSC122, and I just clicked this textbook link, and that got me to the ThinkPython homepage. And there's a bunch of chapters here, which are fine, but the main thing is the notebooks. Now you can click the chapter headings here and just read the chapter like a book, but what's more fun is to read it in Google Colab. So you open this to run Chapter 1 on Colab. And if you log into a Google account, you will now have the interactive version of the book. The Colab is fantastic. So you have the text to read here and little blocks of code you can run. Now the first one just prepares the Colab environment, and you don't have to understand it right now, but you do have to run it. So what you do is you run it. Now it's going to warn you, this notebook was not authored by Google and it might do something malicious, but it's not going to do any harm. So I click run anyway. And then it's going to create a container, which is a small version of a virtual machine. It's done creating a machine just for me to use with a certain amount of disk space and a certain amount of RAM. And now it has run this stuff and put a check mark there. So now down here, they're going to talk about how you think. And the main thing in programming is you do arithmetic and such. So let me make the font a little bigger, make the video easier for people to see. So now each one of these, they have line numbers in it. That one is not part of the statement. You just add numbers together, 30 plus 12. So if you run that, the answer is 42. Now, normally in a Python environment, you would put a print statement to tell it to print. But in this Colab environment, you can just put the number there and it'll print it out by default. So 43 minus 1 is 42. And 6 times 7 is 42, and 84 over 2 is 42. You know, you've got all the usual mathematics, addition and multiplication and division and all that. One thing to notice, though, is when you do a division, you get 42.0. And that is an interesting thing. Up here I had 42. So if I wanted to know what was going on here, I could put type of this. This is a big issue in Python. There are different variable types, and it seems like I spend a lot of my life converting one type to another. So this is int for integer. 6 times 7 is an integer, but this type is floating. Floating means floating points with the decimal and part beyond the point. So whenever you do division, you end up with floating point, unless you put 2 slashes here. And that means you're doing integer division rounding down. That's going to be an integer. So that's as important. And integer, floating, and other types, I spend a lot of time in Python converting variables from one type to another. So you'll have to get used to the various types. So that's what they have here. This is floor division. And so 84 over 2 is 42, and 85 / 2 is also 42 because it rounds down. All right, and star is exponentiation. So this is 7 squared, which should be 49, and so it is. In some other languages, you use the caret for exponentiation, but in Python, it's the XOR. Here's a question. Is there a late assignment policy? Oh, yes. Yes, okay, I can answer both of those questions. You always turn things in late. If you're late, turn them in anyway. You won't lose much. I might take a few points off, might take nothing off at all. Also, you can work ahead. A whole bunch of the courses available now. All the hands-on projects are available, except for like 4 at the end I haven't written yet, and about half the quizzes are ready, the first 7 chapters or something. So feel free to work ahead. And always don't give up on things just because they're late. Do them late. You won't lose much, if anything. Very good question. All right. And so this is XOR, which we'll talk about later in the binary section. 7 XOR 2 is going to flip the 7 is 4 plus 2 plus 1. And XORing with 2 will flip the 2 bit, so it's going to turn into 5. And unless you know your binary, that's going to seem pretty confusing, and I wouldn't worry about it right now. But we will do it in the projects. Anyway, now, if you have something like this, 6 plus 6 squared, that's kind of ambiguous. If you do the addition first, you're going to get 12 and then square it. If you square the 6 first and then add 6, you're going to get something else. So now, computer programming books always make a big deal of learning the precedence of orders. The quizzes show not open. Oh, I'll check with my grader. They should all be available now. I'll fix that. Yeah, thanks for telling me. My grader sometimes sets them up, say open every week, but they should all just be open right away. I'll fix that later. Probably can do it tonight. Anyway, so if you care, you can learn the order of operations, and exponentiation happens before addition, so this is going to be 36 plus 6, or 42. However, it's a whole lot better, in my opinion, not to remember that, but just use parentheses. If you do that, now it's clear that the 6 squared happens here before the 6. Well, the assignments in Canvas, you don't use them. I'll show you how to turn in assignments. Those are just labels to remind you of the due date. So there's this. And the other way I talked about it, if you wanted to do the other thing where you added before exponentiation, you could do this. So parentheses make things much clearer. This is going to be 12 squared or 144. All right. So that's the order of operations. All right. So 12 plus 5 times 6. Multiplication and division happen before addition and subtraction. So this can be 30 plus 12 or 42. Right, and here use parentheses if you want to control it. And I highly recommend using parentheses just to make it easier to read. All right. And there's other functions like round. Will round things to the nearest number. So this 42.4 will be 42. 42.6 will be 43. Absolute is the absolute function. So the absolute of a positive number is unchanged, but the absolute of a negative number is the positive version of it. So these should be familiar things. All right. And right here is a magic command, expect, warning it, this is going to give me an error. Abs without the parentheses is a syntax error. And so you see it complains. This is what happens when you make a mistake, invalid syntax. To fix it, you'd have to put parentheses around this. There. And now it should run there and give you 42. All right. So fair enough. If you leave out the parentheses and the value and just have a function name by itself, then that will just print the address, the location of the function. You're not using the function, but it just tells you that it is a function and something about its structure. All right. So those are numbers. Now for strings. You just put quotes, either single or double quotes around something, and now you have a string. That's hello, this is world. And notice, even though I use double quotes here, Python uses single quotes just to indicate it's a string. All right. Now, so you can, if you use double quotes, you can include a small single quote inside there. That's how you'd handle an apostrophe. It's a small. And you notice there's a space at the end. Spaces are fine, so you can have a comma and a space inside there, and you can use the plus operator to combine them. So, well, it's a small world. Just combining these things together, there they go. You can also multiply strings, and then it will just repeat it over and over. Spam, 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 spam. All right, and you can figure out the length of something with len of spam. That's going to give you a 4 because it's 4 letters long. All right, and so here I'm using backticks. And backticks are not accepted. If you run that, it's a syntax error. You can use apostrophes or quotes, but backticks won't do, and curly quotes won't work either, which is a problem. All programmers in Python and Bash and many languages hit this problem because if you ever copy anything into a program like Microsoft Word, it will change the quotes into curly quotes, and then when you try to copy it into a command line or something, it'll fail. This is the bane of everybody. These curly quotes are not accepted by computers. All right, so we talked about here's an integer, here's a floating point number, and that's a string. These are the 3 main types of variables. There are some others, but these are the most common ones. So you see type of 2 is integer, type of 42.0 is float, and type of a string is str, string. And you can use int, float, and string to cast things. So I can make an integer of 42.9, and that'll give me the integer part, which is 42, rounding down, and float will turn the integer 42 into the floating point 42.0. Now, if you just put a sequence of digits in quotes, like 126, then what you have is a string with those digits in it. It is not a number you can add. Let's see another question here. No, it's fine. can you explain how a virtual machine works? Oh yeah, a virtual machine is very simple, and we're using it in my other classes, although probably not in this one. A virtual machine is just a program that simulates hardware. It simulates a hard drive, and you have some RAM, and you have like a connection to a virtual keyboard and mouse and all that, and then you install an operating system, and it runs, but it runs on simulated hardware, which can be different than the actual hardware of your computer. That's all. And bash is the command line used typically in Linux. And I'm not sure if we'll use it in this class much, but we're certainly using it in my other classes. Bash is the command line where you execute Linux commands if you're controlling a Linux machine from the terminal. There are other shells, but bash is the most common shell that just lets you do things like list out files and edit files and do many other things. How you control the computer. I'm glad you're asking these questions. It's a very good idea. This is why you have a human and not a computer here. So I can respond to questions. All right, so this looks like a number, but it's a string. So if you try to divide it by 3 or something, it'll complain. You cannot do division between string and integer. And that's what I mean. I spend a lot of my time moving data from one variable type to another because I keep getting errors like this. You tried to divide string and int. Now, if you really wanted 126 over 3, you could get rid of the quotes, and that would turn it back into a number you can divide. That's one way. But another thing you could do is you could run it through int. That should work. I don't know, we're going to see. Might need something other than int, but nope, it works. So that's various ways to do it. Okay. By the way, I could also do float. That should work too. And it does. Anyway, so those are ways to move it back to a numerical form where I can do a division from a string form where you can't do a division. All right. Oh, that's good. I didn't know the examples are coming up, but they have examples that do what I just did. Okay. By the way, when you write a large integer, you might like to use commas, of course, to make it readable, but it will misinterpret it. Commas actually separate elements of a list. So by doing this, you've made a list containing 1, 0, and 0, which is not what you want. If you want to do this, you can use underscores. Python will understand that as separators, so now that is 1 million. And computers often do this. They print numbers without any separators, and it's real hard to see how big it is. So this is a much more clear way to write a big number. All right. So natural languages are like English and French, and now if you're using like an AI, you can use natural languages to some extent, and the AIs are getting better at coding, so that's one thing you might use, and we'll talk about that later. But anyway, natural languages have problems. They're ambiguous, they have redundant, they have multiple meanings for words and multiple words that mean the same thing, and they're full of symbolism and idiom and metaphor. But a formal language, like Python, doesn't have any of that complication. So, it's much more restricted and designed for computers to understand. So what we're learning here is a formal language. There are just rules. And there's also debugging. Whenever you write code, you make mistakes. And so one of the all-important activities to learn is how to test your code and how to find the mistakes and fix them. And what you have to do is develop a style. One of the most common mistakes programmers make is they write a whole lot of code and then it doesn't work. And then they're stuck, like they write a whole page of code. What's much better is write just a couple of lines and test it. Then put in another couple of lines and test it. Then if it breaks, you know where the mistake is. Don't write. You learn how much code you can write before you have to test it. And especially when you're a beginner, the answer is just a couple of lines. Just do a little bit and test it. Do a little bit more and test it. That's the easiest way to get to the end. If you write too much, you're going to have several mistakes that make a mess, and it's going to be hard to find them. All right. So here's some of the terms we talked about. And then there's some exercises here, which I haven't bothered with. I've got my own homework problems, so I'll show you some of them next. So that's the chapter. I do have a little review thing here called a Kahoot. This is an online quiz, which is worth extra credit. You don't have to do it. But it's popular with students. It keeps them from falling asleep. So let's try this. It's going to, okay, here we go. Right, so open a browser and go to kahoot.it and type in that number and a name you'd like to use. and you will get a chance to win 3 points. Whoever's in the top 3 gets 3 points, and it adds up after a while. Yeah, I've been coding for 50 or 60 years, so I've done every mistake you can make. And that's how I do it. I write a little bit and test it, and a little bit more and test it. That saves you a lot of suffering. Well, we only got 5 people on Twitch. We may not get more than 3 here, in which case you're all going to win. We'll carry on anyway, because the questions will be there for the people that watch the video to review, but I'll wait a little longer in case people are taking time to figure out how to get here, but I'll wait for a few more measures of the song. All right. I think we got everybody that's coming. We will carry on. Oh, there, okay. All right. All right, so what is that type? What's the output of that going to be? Yep, float. I had it integer. I made it into a float, so the type is now float. Good. All right, what happens if you add those 2 things together? You get peanut butter with no space. There's no space here, so it's just rammed together like that. If you wanted a space, you'd have to add a space, either as a third item or by adding a space after the T or before the B. All right? And how about this? 3 plus blind mice. These answers aren't what they should be, but you can't have everything. It is this one. It's type error. You can't add integer to text. And I should have had 3 blind mice here, but anyway, you can't add an integer plus text. You're going to have to turn this into a string if you want to add it to a string by putting quotes around it. All right, there you go. So you both win, of course. There's only 2 of you, so it'll pop up the names in a minute. All right, Ethan. Looks like a real name. And Ella looks like a real name. Good. Good. If those are real names, my grader will be able to find you to record the points. All right. So that's it for the first chapter. I'm going to stop recording.